Thank you so much for staying with us here on News Talk. Bruce DePuyt with you on this Tuesday. It's a question people have asked for decades, but it seems particularly relevant now. How can there be people out of work when there are so many help wanted ads? The answer, at least in part, is fairly simple. The skill set employers are looking for aren't the ones that many job seekers have. So how can you position yourself for success? Author and workplace and job skills expert Nicholas Wyman joins us now. His new book is called Job U: How to Find Wealth and Success by Developing the Skills Companies Actually Need. Welcome, and thanks very much for coming in. It's good to have you here.
Pleased to be here.
How big is the gap between what employers need and what people have? How big is the skills gap?
Enormous. It's actually, I call it people without jobs and jobs without people. And I think what's really driving this is this technological and global change. So it's not just here or in the, in the state or even in the country. It's around the world. Businesses are having to rapidly evolve to keep up and compete. And so what's going on is our education systems are just not producing students with the skills they need.
Part of this is because technology is changing so fast that even if our educational system was firing on all 8 cylinders in terms of skills instruction, it would be tough to keep up. And I doubt, from your perspective, we're firing on all 8 cylinders.
Well, I think one of the situations that we've seen is that the education system has somehow become removed from employers. And a lot of people have looked to government to say, well, what are you going to do about this? We've got record high youth unemployment, and in the metro DC area, we've got youth unemployment 3 to 4 times above the state average. So we've got this disastrously high youth unemployment and disengagement. Our young people are not completing high school with their high school diplomas. It's about 40%. So people don't have basic skills, the workplace skills that are needed to get and to actually keep a job. So these are skills such as, just basic communication and being able to work in a group. So these are skills that are drastically missing.
What sorts of things would employers like to see our educational system do to a greater extent than we're seeing now, and I assume some of these are in the book? What do we do to close this gap?
Well, I think that this connectivity of where employers are actually involving themselves in the curriculum, and there's varying models that we're starting to see spring up. And I was just reading an article this morning actually about how NASA is working in a high school looking at aeronautical engineering, and particularly trying to get students engaged at an early age. And I think that's really important. There's another model called PTech, Pathways in Technology. There's about 27 schools that are now running on the East Coast, and there's going to be about 100 of those schools by 2016. So this is a 9 through 14, where employers are actually having a hand in crafting the curriculum. So I think that's absolutely critical. So what I'm seeing successful models look like is where you've got employers, but you've also got community working together in a coordinated way. So this is not necessarily developing all these new education systems. It's really about coordinating things in a better way to connect our students for the jobs that exist.
There's a lot of focus and a lot of talk right now about what folks refer to as STEM: science, technology, engineering, and math. Does this offer the potential to close, at least if we can get young people, particularly girls, who the numbers show don't go into the science, technology, engineering, and math fields quite in the numbers that boys do? Can we close some of the gap through some of this work, this sort of STEM emphasis?
STEM is critical in school. And that's because even, if you're undertaking a career as an automotive technician, you need to learn how to measure, and you need to learn, basic things that you're learning through STEM subjects are applicable throughout life and throughout your business life. And it's a shame that this has, fallen by the wayside. So I think that any efforts to really increase STEM in school, and I think what's really going on with these programs, there's programs around Lego and all sorts of different ways of bringing back fun into the classroom. We've got to engage our young people, and we've got to bring out their passion. And I remember when I was at school, science was fun. You actually had a Bunsen burner and you actually were able to undertake the experiments, right? And then, as time has gone by, it was the teacher talking to a group of students. And it's not the same as actually learning by doing.
Bring the open flame back. That's what we need.
Exactly. We need
open flame in the classroom.
We need some more flame in the classroom as long as it's supervised. But we actually need to engage our young people, because what I see, which is so sad, is so many parents are guiding their students and their sons and their daughters to actually follow particular pathways through school to get an end result in an exam. And it's not necessarily where that student wants to end up or where they'd like to be. So people are actually walking away from the subjects they enjoy.
Can you talk about the importance of internship and apprenticeship and how they factor into this desire to close the skills gap?
An apprenticeship is one way of learning by doing, so you can earn and learn, and it's a pathway. It's certainly not a siloed, you undertake an apprenticeship and that's where you stop learning. So there's no reason that you can't undertake an apprenticeship and then move into 4-year college. But an apprenticeship is usually about 4 years in duration, whereas an internship is about can be up to 12 months. And I would say with internships that organisations that are taking internships seriously really need to look at this as a skills need, as developing skills, not some philanthropic activity that they're doing. It really needs to be securing a labour pipeline for their future. And I think that this is where there's, we hear some negative press about internships. Mm-hmm. I think the idea of learning and earning on the job is fantastic, but I think for a person to go and undertake an unpaid internship is really not beneficial for either party.
Some young people know at a pretty early age what they want to do as a career. Some find their goal, their career passion, if you will, somewhat later on, maybe college or even after they graduate. Is earlier better to the extent that you come to something naturally and organically?
I think that if you know that you like working with people at an early age, I think you don't necessarily have to just, say, I would like to be a surgeon or I'd like to be an EMT. Now, both of those professions, I should say, are actually about saving lives. But one, you actually need to go to 4-year college, and the other you can gain through certification, so that's on-the-job training. But as long as you know you like working with people or you like working with machines or you're great at numbers. In my case, I knew that I had a burning desire to travel the world, and I thought that a hospitality career, an apprenticeship in culinary arts would be the way to do that. And my father was an academic professor, and he did everything he could do to persuade me from actually getting into an earn while you learn career. But as it turned out, it was the right path for me at the time.
I know a number of the community colleges in the Washington area, and Montgomery College comes to mind sort of most, because I covered Montgomery County for a long time, and I know that for decades they've worked with the private sector to really get a handle on what skills were the employers looking for, and then working with their students to teach those skills. Is that something that we see broadly across the economy, and would you advocate for the maximum coordination that we can have between private sector and the educational community?
Absolutely, and some critics would call it corporatisation of education. I don't agree with this line at all. I believe that it makes good economic sense. It's economically sound for, to be producing this supply and demand, but for students it's absolutely critical that they understand what opportunities are available. And I see so many young people who dive off into college, and I'm not saying that, that college is the wrong thing to do, but you really have to know where you're heading. Simply to sign up into 4-year college, accrue debt, and not know what the end goal is can have all sorts of financial implications.
I will steal a question that a previous interviewer asked you, and that is regarding the gap year, the year that some students take after high school and before college to maybe work or maybe travel and hopefully get a better sense of what they want to do, at least as they start their career. Do you see opportunity in this? Do you ever counsel people to take a gap year and sharpen your personal career focus?
Well, I'd say to some people, take 5 gap years. There's an opportunity you don't necessarily, who says that you have to leave school and go straight into 4-year college? So, if you're looking at gap year, the opportunity there is my advice to people is to make sure that you actually get some work in the area for which you're interested in working in. If you like working in IT, try and secure some employment in the IT or information. Now, that's not always easy, but don't go and get a job as a barista in a cafe, because, you know, if you want to work in service industries, fantastic, and you want to brush up on customer service skills, that's great. But it's a real opportunity to gain some experience and really start to build a resume, because at the end of the day, employers are looking for people who have practical, real-world skills. And, you know, when I'm employing people, and I employ about 800 people, when I'm employing people, I always ask them the question, you know, what are you going to bring to the table, and what are the skills that you actually have that you can bring to my business?
The book is out in January, but you can pre-order it now online. It is called Job U, How to Find Wealth and Success by Developing the Skills That Companies Actually Need. The author, Nicholas Wyman. Thanks very much for coming in. Great having you here. Really important topic. Good of you to join us.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for letting me explore it in such great detail.
It's a pleasure having you here. We hope folks at home get something out of it. When we return, a new list catalogs the worst sports team owners of all time. And guess who tops the list?